sells stuff so cheap.
Billion tons of mozzarella sticks.
Not a billion. It's like maybe a pound.
Anyway, we're going live. Hello, everybody. Hello. Pardon us. We're finishing breakfast. If you hadn't noticed, I was up really late, live streaming a little bit, and Joe got up late to himself. So, but anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop for this week. So sorry we missed last week. Confession, I was at PAX South, and my schedule at PAX South would have been terrible for just popping in on my phone.
Yes.
And the only Wi-Fi I had was at the hotel, so I would have had to been at the hotel either. We would have had to have it really early in the morning or really late at night in order for it to work as a kind of event. And even then, it wouldn't have been great because I still would have been on a phone.
Yeah, the quality, unfortunately, on your phone isn't that good.
No. And we did learn. I hope people have been enjoying the PAX vlog. The second one should be up soon. I'm sorry I haven't been getting it up because I prepped for my vacation but did not prep for afterwards. I got hit with getting behind.
But we learned some things we can improve on the next time you do a con and want a vlog. We do have some improvements that's going to make better picture quality, and now that I've learned all the editing software that he needs edited for, it's not going to take me 8 hours to do a 25-minute video.
And I've learned that transferring my videos that I record on my phone via text changes it away from MP4 to some other kind of weird format.
Which I learned how to convert on the fly.
God. Okay, everybody. Well, today's schedule is going to be pretty simple. We're going to talk about my PAX South trip. I'm going to talk about everything I saw, all the interesting things, mostly about tabletop games, but I will talk a little bit about some video games too, because, I mean, it's part of the entire trip. It's part of the entire convention because it is a, 40% tabletop, 60% video games kind of place. I will talk a little bit about the new PAX that's coming up, PAX Unplugged, and then we'll move on to our topics for the week, which we might transfer to next week if we need to. First one is I do want to talk a little about anime and collectible card games, because there's something unique that I haven't seen before that occurred in one of the new card games I've been covering in Gathering the Roll. The Card Fight Vanguard has put out an anime/video game series deck, themed something else totally different than normal. That's unusual. Also, I do want to talk about Syntheside and Fragged Empire, two sci-fi RPGs I just learned about this week. One of them's new, the other one is relatively new. But let's dive into PAX. Let's start with the most important part of this entire thing. I want to talk about PAX's indie tabletop lineup, because I got to play about 4 of the games, and I got to observe the other 4 a little bit. So, let's just start at the top of the list and talking about them. Let's start with Dice Throne. So, Dice Throne is interesting. It's a tactical kind of card/dice game where you have heroes. You basically have, and they're generic heroes, Barbarian, Paladin, that sort of thing. And the idea is that you're doing either 2v2 battles or free-for-alls. And it's 2 to 4 players. They don't say it's going to be a lot of time. But it seems like the object is that you're getting cards and rolling dice in order to earn the cards for your characters. Basically building your characters, sort of then competing against the other characters as you build yours up in a sort of competition. As I said, either free-for-all or 2v2. It seemed very interesting, and an interesting take on this sort of, hero game that it's not necessarily cooperative. So, I did find it interesting. This is one of the ones I didn't get a chance to try, though, unfortunately. But it did look cool, and I would, from what I've described, what do you think about it, Joe?
Sounds interesting. I mean, it definitely is a different way to be able to play, because you can do versus then.
Well, I think it is in a way versus anyway,
Okay.
Excuse me, as I cough a little bit. I managed to avoid the pox or the PAX plague by sheer ability of me being slightly plagued to begin with.
Okay, plague bearer.
I know. So yeah, so you effectively have dice that you're rolling a little bit against the board and a little bit against your opponents to effectively build your character and fight amongst each other. So it's very interesting. That you can have, like, you have your own attacks that you can use against your opponents, of course, and, you know, you're trying to, I guess, defeat them. Just, you know, it's the normal sort of, like, you're combating other people, you're getting rid of them. There's, you know, it's a combination of dice and deck building, it looks like, a little bit. So, very neat. But, again, that one is one of the ones I did not have a chance to try, unfortunately. So let's, though, now that we've mentioned this one, let me move on to the next one, though, because this is the one that, again, I didn't get a chance to try, but I found it much more interesting because it is more unique. Fantastic Factories. I really should have something that I could put images up on here. Unfortunately, that would take a minute. But anyway, let's try this out here. Add image. PAX. Yes, I should have done this ahead of time. Of course I should have.
Bad Matt. Bad.
How much you talking about?
No Matt treats for you.
Let's just put this... come on, get bigger. Right in between the two of us. Wham! There we go. Fantastic Factories. Okay. I'll try to do this for each of the ones of them. Make it a little more interesting. I'll probably put up one for Dice Throne at the end just so you can see of it. Anyway, so this one is all about manufacturing. It's features, you take simultaneously turn, it's got dice rolling, you're sort of building your own engine in a way, your own factory, because you're sort of manufacturing, and you're using cards to represent the different aspects of it. So you're sort of building, like, cards out on the board and rolling die in order to run your said factory you're building, or to possibly even sabotage your opponents using various cards that you get. So you're sort of constructing things in front of you, sabotaging your opponents, building the most efficient and powerful, like, sort of factory, being the dominant one. Basically, industrial dominance is the aim of it. So I found that one very interesting because, I mean, factory-based game? I haven't really seen one of those before.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those out there, so that should be something different.
Yeah. It definitely was an interesting take on the civil design sort of board game, because we have seen civil design board games before, or, like, you know, I would call civil design like anything that's a little more realistic, maybe like something that would be city building, like Lords of Vegas. You're building the Strip. Right. I guess that's civil design too. I'd call that.
Yeah, I agree. That kind of falls into that category. Even well, I was going to say Cantan can be a little bit of it.
A little bit, but it's not the same because it's not focusing on that civil design. Yeah. I don't think. So it's very interesting though that they found a unique part of said civil design and have definitely come up with an interesting game for it. Why don't I finish talking about the ones I didn't get a chance to actually play or anything, and then we'll move on to the ones that I did get to play. So I did not get a chance to play Pirates of Perdona. Let's switch our image here. Properties. Because I can do this on the fly, totally.
I believe you can fly.
There! Bam! I can do it on the fly. Guess what? I'm good at this thing. So this is like... it's all about pirates and traders. And the object is that you're effectively, I guess you're a little bit of pirate, a little bit of trader, and you're journeying out into the ocean to get treasure, magical artifacts, various other things. You're trying to become the most renowned captain in the sea, effectively. Basically get the best stuff, take it back to you, and you can just be more merchant-y and go gather things from places and come back to your port, and that's just fine. Or you're allowed to attack other ships, which most of the time the other ships will be other players, and basically pirate them. There are, of course, other dangers to being out in the waters that can occur with the various cards and stuff that you can have that can affect you. But still, it's definitely an interesting game because of this. Because of the kind of nature of the that you're aiming to get certain like treasures and loots, and you have to manage your ship, and you know its cannons, its sails, and things like that. That you can sort of repair things when you get back to port, and you might be driven back to port if you take enough like attacks from other people, and you know then you might lose whatever stuff you would have had on your ship. So it's this combination of judging when to stay in a fight, when to going after the treasure, possibly when to attack other people. I think it comes up with an interesting take on a pirate game.
That sounds good. I'd definitely give it a try.
I don't know if I've played any other basically or heard of any other pirating games too. I'm sure there are others out there, but like a pirate board game just isn't as common. I mean, you got like Seafarers of Catan, which has that little pirate on it, but that's the most I can think of, and you're not playing that. You're being bothered by that.
Right.
So
I'm sure there has to be some out there, but I don't know off the top of my head.
No, neither do I, unfortunately. That's one of those an interesting problem to face. Well, yeah, I would say check out Pirates of Predonia. It does look very interesting. It looks like a game that might be very fun to play. So let's move on to our next game. Word Domination.
Stop dominating that word.
No. So it's about area control and a word game. And you're effectively being very much world domination kind of villains. So, yeah.
that sounds like right up both of our alleys because we're so great at spelling.
I know. So you're a super villain trying to steal priceless artifacts from around the globe by spelling long words.
That sounds weird.
And you take letters to both block your opponents and to use exclusively in your own words.
It sounds really bizarre just because... Why? How does being better at spelling words make you dominate?
It's the game, man. It's the game. Let alone the fact that it's a world domination game that's all about spelling.
It makes me almost think of the TV show Sliders. There was an episode where there was they had this sports game that was also you had to answer like difficult questions to score as well.
Now the thing
is, it was a physics-based thing.
So this is very James Bond era, supervillains, and they say that each of their 100 different artifacts are a different letter. So there are repeats in letters, but they represent their own unique thing. And you get special hard to use letters are special items that you might have in your devious, items. Like the weird.
I am a Z.
Well, that might be like X-ray goggles or something. Yeah. One of those like fanciful James Bond era tools. And they do say it's built in such a way that anybody, even people that are not very good word gamers, can smell massive words.
They can smell them?
Yes. Apparently there are... It's supposed to be built that non-word people can do it. And you can do team-based or individual. They have rules for that. So, it's interesting. It's just that...
I still wouldn't go up against someone like Chad on this.
Oh my god, no. Oh.
Who's an English major.
I would not even take James, because... our Emperor Palpatine. Because he does words with friends with people.
I do words with friends, and I do beat him fairly often, so I would do James.
Words with friends for me is put in random letters that I have, see for the best.
I normally am a tactical player. Mm. I have a good vocabulary. My spelling just isn't very good. Mm. But I try to find ways to do combos off the double, triple scores and stuff.
Yes.
I'm good at very good at placing it, and that's where I excel. So maybe in that way I could do this game, because I'm good at I'm good at being strategic on my placements.
So yeah, and you each get your own unique player card from the set of them that has a unique power. So I mean, you do get some advantages that help out.
Right.
I think it's an interesting game that I was just not interested in trying out or seeing much on. That's the way
there's a lot of other stuff to do that piques your interest a lot more.
It had spelling. And spelling for me is bad. Often.
I don't know what you mean, Mr. Cooper for the Cooch.
That was just bad handwriting, thank you very much. Because I write a list, and my handwriting is terrible, and it looks like entirely different words. Yes.
I know, but I just had to throw that in there.
Alright, so why don't we move on, though, to some games I actually played. Because that seems like it's a good idea at this point in time. Random Encounters. I actually played Random Encounters. And may I note, I had a very nice discussion with one of the people that created Random Encounters and talked about my own work on creating my own board games and stuff. So that was very fun to talk to him about it. But
now, this must be a different version of it, because I have Random Encounter, Plains of the Troll King.
That's completely different. This is Random Encounters, with an S at the end.
Okay. That's why I was just curious. When you told me about that before, I'm like, that sounds familiar. Okay, just happens to be a similar name.
Well, the other one, probably the Plains of the Troll King, are part of the entire title to begin with.
No, it's Random Encounter, and then on the bottom of the box is Plain of the Troll King. So I think there's more than one version of it.
Huh. Interesting.
So it could be in that set. It just might be...
Because I think it's no, Random Encounter, Plains of the Troll King is the entire name.
Oh, okay. It's just separated on the box.
Yes. I just had to look that out. So they did actually call it something completely different. Yeah. They do separate it on the block, but that's technically what it's called. And it's done by an entirely different group of publishers anyway.
Gotcha. So, that's why when you were saying how good it was, I'm like, really?
It's not the same game you played. Or you have, I should say. Alright. So let's talk about Random Encounters. So each of you gets a hero. And the heroes have their own unique abilities. And you get... Was it 2 dice? Yes, 2d6, except the 6 is like a special symbol. Okay? So... Now, in most cases, that special symbol is going to represent 6, but there could be other unique points in time where it represents something else. So you work together as a team, and each character has a strength, a agility, and a magic, and you fight monsters using one of the abilities of your choice versus the monster's ability of choice. And then you each have a leader on every turn, and leaders shift around per monster. When a leader is in charge of killing a monster, when the monster gets killed, they hold on to that monster, they get a treasure. When every character has gotten 2 monsters that they're holding on to. You fight a boss. You repeat this for 3 times for 3 different levels of monsters/bosses. Then you win the game.
Now, can you get more than 2 monsters? Like, if someone's only gotten 1, and you already got 2, and it's your turn again, can you get a 3rd monster?
Yes, but that's a very unique situation and requires special cards.
Okay.
Because, like, there are trap cards, just like there are monsters. But you can do things to ignore trap cards, and effectively it would be discarded then. So if it's discarded, the person that was the leader doesn't get that card, they don't get a treasure, you move on to the next leader. So yes, it very well could be like that. Or there's special cards that might draw more than 1 monster. Then it has rules for who gets those monsters. You could have the player that's fighting it get the monster, and the next player get it. You know? And it seems like it's not necessarily, but you can have someone play as all the monsters versus the players. I'm assuming you don't need to have that, just from how the rules were, but it works easier when you have that. Basically, you're playing against a group versus 1.
Got you.
Now, and the treasures, you've got ones that don't have any slots, and then you have ones that have slots, which each of your heroes has certain types of slots, which isn't all the types of cards. Like when I played, I had a weapon slot, a armor slot, and a familiar slot. I never found a familiar. The other person I was playing with had a weapon, accessory, and familiar when they had their hero. So whenever I would get an accessory, I'm allowed to give that to that other person. So you're allowed to instantly trade in between them, in between battles.
Okay.
And you can also sell stuff off in between after a boss fight to possibly get higher level treasures. Like 2 of level 1 treasures gives you a level 2. You know, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't really matter about level 3 because, you know, once you get to level 3, you're not, you beat the game when you beat the thing there. And all the arts looks pretty interesting. The characters look very unique. It definitely was a very fun game to play, and I would highly recommend trying it out. It's very cooperative, yet it does have that, you know, that thing where you definitely can have someone versus everyone else. So that was very interesting that they had that.
Right.
And again, I'm not 100% sure that you can't switch away from that and play just against the board. So, yep. It definitely, again, I would have to see if you could play against, you know, the
board instead of having someone as the monsters.
Yeah, that's true. That's a tough one to determine. Especially, I can't get the rules in front of me. But they do have some, like, alternate rules and stuff, too, anyway, that you can help out for different things. So, I would definitely recommend Random Encounters a lot. That was a very fun one. It was cool. It's one of those games that, you know, playing it, I was like, yeah, I could get behind this one pretty well. But let's move on to the next one of the games that I have experience with. Let's switch the image. Because we can. Wicked Apples. Wicked Apples. This was a strategic game. That's the best way to say it. So, it's like 2 to 5 players, I'm sorry. You deal out these little barrels, which are your apple barrels, which are numbered 1 to 5. Doesn't really matter the order. That actually determines, because you always go from lowest number to highest number, and this is the first number you're going to use. Then everybody gets a wicked apple. Everybody gets 3 other apples. It might be different for the number of players. If you're playing a 5-player game, so maybe at higher players you get more apples. I don't know for sure. But I was doing a 5-player game. So, other than the wicked apple, which there's one of for every barrel, effectively, so there's 5 of them, every other apple is unique and has unique powers. So, you get to look at your apples, learn their abilities, you put them down face down in front of you. On your turn, you can look at one of them. So you don't get to look at them again. You have to memorize where I put my wicked apple, where I put this other apple. You have to know that right away. You should at least know where you put your wicked apple, because if not, you're screwing yourself over. On your turn, you can look at one or pass a card to any other player. Then, everyone chooses one of their apples to eat. And then, you go from lowest number to highest number, and their powers activate. And sometimes you might have, one of your apples might stick to another apple. One of the apples, might have you bring an apple back from your already eaten. There's a lot of different effects that you can have. And the object is to be the last alive, though there are ways that everybody can die. Because it's not just Wicked Apple, which can kill you. There are a couple other ones that can cause effects, which won't get you dead. Like maybe it makes you eat an extra apple. So like when everyone else is eating a Wicked Apple, and you have to eat an extra one, and it's your Wicked Apple, well, then you're screwed. Or if you're being forced to eat the Wicked Apple, and the other person's also eating their Wicked Apple, so, again, everybody could die, which is the interesting thing about this game. So it's a lot of risks, and I actually won my time playing it, so that was really fun. I mean, we won against the board in random encounters, but that was, yay, go team. Our team won! So,
yay!
Yeah.
I found the random encounters rulebook, by the way.
It's kind of messed up online.
Oh, okay.
At least it was for me.
I'm able to read it fine.
I don't know why it's not coming up. It came up with with letters missing for some reason for me. Weird.
I can send you the link that I have if you want.
Never mind. I'm not going to look through it right now because we're in the middle of the show.
Yes.
And I guess if we get it, we'd find out for sure anyway.
Yeah, true. Okay, sorry.
It's okay. So what would you think of this one? Because this is strategy based.
Yeah, it's definitely strategy. Because you have to know what you have at all times, and when to what to pass and everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to pass wicked apples, and try to get your opponents to eat their wicked apples. But with how you've explained it before, with you only can look either look or trade. It's definitely well, if no one's the only time you really want to trade, if no one actually traded with you since your last turn, and you have memorized where everything is, then it's fine to trade. Otherwise, if someone gave you something, you might want to actually look.
And I found that I kept my Wicked Apple as much as I could. Now, granted, I lost it because someone else took it from me, and it ate it right away using one of their cards and died. But I got other ones. And I always was like, you know what? As long as I have a different apple, at least as long as I have options, I was okay.
Right.
And that was what I sort of strategized on. Is that I gave myself options for a lot of these different things. And so it was calculation that, it was very interesting because it's like, it's cutesy because it is like, oh, it's like different weird types of apples, and it makes you feel makes you feel like, very Snow White-ish,
Yeah.
But it has this level of strategy to it that is actually very deep, because it's also like, maybe my card is like a 14 or something. Someone that has an 8 on their number is going to play their card first. That's going to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend checking out Wicked Apples. It was cool that I got to play it. Unfortunately, they didn't have any copies. I would have maybe gotten a copy of that one, actually, because it was so small. It would have easily fit in my bag.
Yeah, you think since they're demoing these that you're gonna have ones to sell?
They did, but by the time I was asking,
got there. Oh, they were sold out.
Yep.
Gotta bring more stuff, people.
Well, that was with random encounters, they sold out. But the thing is, on Saturday, they brought X amount. Sold out. They brought twice that amount on Sunday, thinking, oh, Sunday, there are less people there. Probably not going to sell out. They sold out. And they technically did have more, but the guy who had the car with the more went to the wrestling show that was there, and they couldn't get in the vehicle. Because there's a wrestling event. I don't remember which one it is. It might not have been WrestleMania. It might have been one of the other ones or something. One of the major ones. But But it was
Don't leave the stuff in the guy who's not going to be in the guy's car who's not going to be there.
They didn't expect to sell out because they got double the amount of games that they had on Saturday.
Just
and it was
in case, don't do it.
And it was like half the people that, you know, it probably would have been half the people there than there was on Saturday, on Sunday.
Yeah, I can understand it, but at the same time, normally with like a 3-day con, if you're doing all 3 days, you might wait to the last day to really do all your purchasing because then you don't have to lug stuff.
People bought chairs on that last day. In the gaming chair booth, people were walking out with chairs and trying to figure out how to get them back home. Good luck on that. I saw more than one chair leave the con that day. It's like, why are there people with chairs? Oh, they bought them.
Why?
I guess they were really comfy for gaming.
Yeah.
They were specifically designed with the gamer in mind. There was a whole bunch of products for them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll see some of that stuff in November.
Yes, which we'll talk about in a little bit, too.
Yes.
So, why don't we move on and talk about... let me switch the image again, because I'm efficient at this. Not really.
Thank you for the imaging, switching imaging song, Matt.
Yep. Wrathborn Champions. So this is another one that, again, it's an indie game. And this was a very interesting one, because they took aspects of what I would call your tradition. They took little aspects of your traditional sort of group heroes board game. They took some influence from, let's say, like Skyrim. And then they took some influence from an MMO. Because their idea for the MMO was... You have, you know, the big raids, which it's a lot of people versus one big boss kind of thing, you know? Where you also have people drawing the attention of the monster, you know, to keep it busy. So that was the idea, is that you'd have one person that would be drawing the wrath of the monster per turn, and it would switch around the board. So different people would keep circling the wrath. So that was their big thing with the sort of basic concept there. The Skyrim portion of it is there are heroes and weapons. You can choose any combination of the two of them. You get a deck of cards based on this combination. So, and this deck represents all the cards you can play on your turn, and it represents your health. The more damage you take from the monster, you put cards into a special, like, damage pile, or if you use cards, you put them in discard. You can eventually reshuffle the discard into your normal deck once you run out of cards. If you get healed, the damaged cards get put into their normal discard. Because there are characters that can heal you.
Gotcha.
Alright, and so you're supposed to take on 6 monsters. Each is leveled 1 to 6. Basically, each of these boards, which are these square boards, have levels 1 to 3 information written on one side, and 4 to 6 written on the other side. So when you're fighting a monster, it has 9 sections in a big square. I unfortunately don't have a really good picture of any of this kind of things to show it off, but basically think of a square. Is gridded off into, like, tic-tac-toe 9 squares. And each of these squares is a different portion of the monster, which has different abilities. Some of them don't do anything whatsoever. Some of them attack. Some of them grant bonuses to other squares. And each one of them will have different rules if you defeat that square. And when you play cards, they target certain areas of the squares. It might tell you it will target the 4 corners. Or it might tell you your whatever ability you're using targets the center. And you will basically discuss with the group of players. You'll all take turns trying to fight this thing. Then the monster will attack the one with the wrath token. Hopefully they'll survive. The wrath token will move along. And, you know, you sort of keep repeating this until each of the monsters is destroyed and each of the character doesn't lose their deck. Every time you kill a monster, you have some kind of level up where you get special cards from another deck, which enhance your decks and make it better for fighting the next level up monster, which usually it might not be the same monster, it might be another monster at a higher level. You know, that's usually what you're going to do, because they had a whole bunch of different monsters, different abilities. There's like a Hydra, which is pictured down here below. There was a giant goblin hordes, Minotaur. There was a whole lot of ones. And they had, 6 class, 6 weapons. That's right. And they had 9, the Minions of Wrath, they called them. were the big squares. So they had 9 of those boards. So it had 9 different monsters you could fight from. And again, you could keep fighting the same one at different levels, or you could switch it out each time.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Sounds interesting. I definitely would be interested in trying that one as well.
Yeah, and it's one of the more complex ones, I think is a good way of saying it. And a lot of the classes look cool. They're very unique in their abilities. They have a wide selection of them. They have an interesting selection of weapons, too. That, again, anybody could use, which is the other interesting thing. So it's like I could be, the enchanter, your spell casting type, and I could choose to go sword and shield. Because, generally speaking, they're going to work together, but in different ways, and that's the interesting thing I think about it.
Okay.
That, your enchanter deck will give you certain things, and then your weapon deck will give you certain things, and they work perfectly fine together.
Right, you might be able to buff yourself so that you can use your sword better.
Yes. Which maybe normally if you took something like Wand with the enchanter, you might be buffing one of your allies rather than yourself.
Right.
And because there is this, it makes it that there's a lot more replayability, because you can have totally different heroes at totally different times. And some of the other special decks that you can add cards in, I think, help a lot, too.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like, you're getting your bang for your buck there. You're getting a lot of replayability and diversity.
Yeah. Now, this one is actually in Kickstarter now. Okay. It's hard to, realize which one's in which. Because, some of them have been fully produced. Others have not. So I think this one's one of the ones that's still in the middle of kickstarting. They basically were on a promotional tour with their playtests.
Gotcha.
With, what they have built already. Which is actually kind of cool that they were able to do that. That have, a complete version of the game already. But I guess producing one of them is a lot easier.
Yeah.
I do have to say, than producing, a whole lot of them. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's probably you have your demo one, and then you're trying to raise the money to actually be able to mass produce.
Yeah, you basically can pay for getting one together, and after that, well, I guess they had technically more than one. They probably got a few copies, whatever minimum you were able to get, just to help promote things.
Oh wow, their Kickstarter is actually really nice.
Yes, I know.
For $20 or more, you receive access to 2 high-quality print and play editions, pre-production set as soon as the campaign's release, and a production quality set when we order our manufacturing. I mean, you get a lot for even just donating $20.
Oh, cool.
So if this sounds interesting, I definitely would say do their Kickstarter, because you are going to get a lot for your money.
Yeah. Well, those are print and play editions. That was the only thing.
Well, you receive the the print and play, yes, but that's still for $20.
Which thing is I have a print and play of a couple of games too myself, which I printed out, and I don't get much chance to play them, but. And getting the 2 print and play and an actual copy of the game for $50 isn't bad either, I'd say too. I mean,
no, that's a good quality price. I mean, they have it all the way up to 500 or more, which you get the Wrathborn's Champion game, print and play, and a Minion of Wrath art print.
I don't know if I go that far, but apparently a couple people have. 4 people have out of 6. Good for them. That's the thing.
Or you also get to become a game designer with them.
Uh-huh.
For that amount of money. So
yeah. The art looks really cool on it, though, too, I have to say.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. It looks like a very well thought out and polished game already, so...
Well, that's one of those things that is recommended if you're going to hit something like Kickstarter, is if you get it looking good, and then you can sort of begin the huge promotion, too. You know? And they were promoting it correctly. So, Wrathborn Champions, I definitely would recommend checking it out. It's a cool one. If you want to follow the Kickstarter, as we said, it's still on, but it's up to you. You know, I don't know if I will be able to, just because don't have a huge pile of cash. But
yeah, 24 days to go for it, just so people know.
Gives you options. Why don't we move on to the last indie tabletop game that was there? This one I actually liked a lot for being the weirdest gosh darn game ever. Yukon Salon. So you play 2 to 4 characters, and you're going to be the best stylist in the Yukon. Styling the hairdos of grizzly bears and the beards of lumberjacks. So, on your turn, you get 2 actions. Actions are seating a client, trying to give a style a client, or picking up some new styles. Those are basically like the 3 actions you can do. Each client has a unique power. Some of them give you bonuses to your dice rolls. Other ones give you bonuses points at the end of the game. Each one also has a difficulty value, which represents it's also points you earn at the end of the game. If you get more difficult clients, you get more points at the end of the game. Hairdos / beard dues have the same. But each style can be flipped upside right or upside down, depending on if you use it as a beard or you use it as a hairdo. The difficulty varies for that, too. So it might be 3 difficulty to use it as a beard. It might be 5 difficulty to use it as a hairstyle. Again, they each have... It will mention that each of that hairstyles has its own powers. So use the combination of client and hairdo, or client and beard style, to figure out this target number. You have to roll on 2d6 or higher. So it might be, if you have a client of 5, beard of 3, you say, you have to roll an 8 or higher. Again, if you had already successfully seated a client, that might give you a bonus to your dice roll. Sometimes the client or hairdo might give you a bonus action. Might allow you to draw extra cards, take a card from someone, send a seated client in someone else's salon back into the pool, back into the deck. These little things here that make it, you know, move characters around and make it challenging.
This one's also on Kickstarter, too.
Yes, it has already been successfully kickstarted, we note. And for $15, you get it all. You get the game and all the unlocked stretch goals.
And I'm looking at the dues, and they are truly ridiculous.
They really have made them ridiculous. They really... Now, it does have some unique gameplay styles for Yukon Salon here, which makes it really... Okay, if you fail your dice roll, you're not out of the game. Let's say you rolled a 7, and you needed an 8. I could discard a card from my hand to give me +1. For each card I discard, +1. So if I have a lot of cards, I can give them a lot of cards to get a whole bunch of bonuses, and effectively then beat it. The other way is, you can look at what the client's difficulty number is. Let's say it's 3 for your bear that you're trying to. Come up with 3 unique excuses or unique reasons why your client would want this style, or this beards or hairstyle. They have to be unique per game you're playing, so not repeats. And people can call you on it. Like, you know, the other people can be like, that doesn't sound unique, you know. And then you still have a chance to come up with something else, you know. But if you can come up with them, you're allowed to re-roll. So if I roll 2 1s and I get a 7, I'm nowhere near there. I don't have 5 cards, you know. But a re-roll, if I can try to convince this bear that this hairstyle would help it out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just the words that are coming out of your mouth right now are just hilarious.
But they're wonderful. It's a fun game. It's so weird.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I don't know how else to describe it. It's so weird.
Although I'm debating about for $15 about getting it.
I think $15 is a really great deal. I didn't even ask them how much it would have been for a copy because I doubt they would have had it since they're in Kickstarter. You know?
Right. But I mean, that's not a bad price at all for a full game. That's 2 to 4 players, and it's only 10 to 15 minutes. So it seems like, it's something you can break out, have a little bit of fun with, and move on.
Yeah, now they do warn you, you'll have to worry about shipping, but
yeah,
what is that going to be at most? $10 more, and that's at most. If I think they're in the U.S., so for they're in Washington. So for you and me, it's probably not going to be that much. We're not going to get hit by the international shipping, and it's not a big game either, so it's not going to be very expensive to ship. And it looks like they're probably going to get some more of their stretch goals, probably. They're close to the 8,000 one, which is heavier stock and linen finish.
Ooh.
And they have an unknown stretch goal that has something to do with dice and bears.
Lions and dice and bears. Oh. Lumberjacks, dice and bears. Oh my.
I know, really. For $100, you could have your own custom card. Oh, God. Oh. No, and it was really funny because they had...
Oh, it does list the shipping for inside U.S. is $6.
That's not bad.
For international, it's only $7.50.
That's not bad either.
No.
But, no, they had a guy that occasionally would be there with a fake beard on, which was wonderful. One of the bad, lumberjack beards and an outfit sort of matching. And also they had little sticks where they had little, some of their hairstyles on a stick that you could take a picture with it as a beard or a hairstyle. People were doing that.
I was going to say, could you style the guy with the fake beard?
Well, that was an actual person, so I don't know. I think you're playing a stylist in a game rather than being an actual stylist.
Weird but interesting.
It was fun. That's the weird thing.
Ridiculous looking.
It was so ridiculous, but it's the fact that having played through it and been it's really fun, but so ridiculous. And you're thinking about it, you're like, this is insane.
Wow.
Yep. So Yukon Salon. That's a thing. Why don't I talk about some of the other stuff I saw there that would be interesting to discuss? Now, I did see only a brief images of the Munchkin collectible card game, too. Because Steve Jackson's Game had a booth there, showing off some of their new stuff, some of their Munchkin stuff, and they had some images of stuff from the collectible card game.
Did they have any information on it?
Not at all. It was just a small thing in one of their displays where they were displaying some other new products or upcoming products, so they really...
Gotcha.
And unfortunately, that was pretty busy, so I didn't push trying to find out about stuff from them,
Excuse me.
Yes, that's fine. Understandable. It's I probably could have pushed more for information. That's the only thing I could say about it. Maybe. But I don't know. It was... I think it's so early in development, we're not going to know about more. They have the artwork on it and the card design, it seems. But, again, as we talked about previously, we're very, suspect of everything going on here.
Right.
Definitely. Alright, but, let's just continue talking on. So, I didn't try out a whole bunch of the big name stuff, because, the Nintendo Switch was there. I could have tried that, but the lines were insane. That's a good way of saying it. So that when you wandered over near Nintendo, you're like, oh god, Nintendo crowds! Capcom had their booth there with Resident Evil 7 and such. But there was a lot of interesting indie games that were there too, that I do want to at least talk about a few of them just because they were neat and, maybe sharing what I saw. Warlock's Tower unfortunately, I didn't think I could have gotten a copy of it while I was there, because they had a special of pay what you want to get a copy.
Oh, wow.
But I was worried about how I would be transporting it or something, because I think they had some like actual like physical copies, because those are rare nowadays rather than just digital, but they were giving them out, you know. Which is a game where it's a puzzle game where you're a mailman in a warlock's tower that can only move so many steps. Now you can step on these numbers, which reset your steps to that number. So if you step on a 5, now you have 5 more steps from that point in time. If you right away step on a 3, well, you've changed your steps to a 3. And so you then have to solve, like, open doors, avoid monsters, moving around these boards, you know. They're puzzles. It looked interesting. A lot of unique puzzle opportunity there. So I think that was an interesting one to check out. There was a couple of other games that were there definitely that I would recommend checking out. I mean, they had a whole bunch of, like, indie games, definitely. Because, I mean, those are the big things for exhibitors. Exhibitors? Exhibitors.
Yes, exhibitors. At least you didn't go exhibitionist, because that would have been bad.
Yes. Let's see what I can find out. I'm trying to find a list of all the games so that I can easily do this very quickly and effectively, and not be dumb. Yeah. Oh, you hear noise in the background. Yeah.
Yes, I was laughing about the video game sound there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was silly.
Well, since you're talking about video games, I thought it was just a little ironic.
Yeah, you know what? I find it, yes, a little, like, silly, definitely. Okay. Oh, okay. I saw some of these games here that I found a list of some of them, but it's, like, not the full list, unfortunately. Man. This is hard to find, and I don't have the material to look at the full list right now. But there was, okay, they were showing off some interesting ones, like, I like a good platformer, so they're showing off 3 good platformers. There was, God, what was it? Oh, wait. I'm dumb sometimes. I wrote some names down in my phone because I wanted to remember them.
That's a good boy.
Yep. So, interesting things I saw that I did make a note of. Town of Salem board game. So this is another board game. Now, Town of Salem, I know about. It's a video game where it's effectively like a super evolution of the One Night at Werewolf series.
Okay.
So it's that type of game. Except it's like everybody has a very unique role, and there is a lot more like groups competing. So it's not just werewolves versus townsfolk. You'll have your townsfolk with all their roles. Then they have a mafia with their roles. Then you could also have vampires, werewolves, and serial killers and arsonists, each competing to win. And using their own, like basically being the last one alive. So I don't know much about it in board game form, but apparently they came up with an actual game version of it that you can play this. Which is actually, it isn't as difficult as it sounds, because it works a lot like One Night at Werewolf. You have times at night where, I mean, the only thing is, because there's like hidden chats online on a computer, you know, like Mafia can talk it out during night, but werewolves didn't get to talk during night when it came to, you know, One Night at Werewolf. They used, like, silent gestures and stuff to figure stuff out.
Right.
So, I mean, that's perfectly fine that they can do the same for, you know, Mafia and stuff, I'm assuming. And it's just going to be basically expanded One Night at Werewolf. So I thought that was an interesting one. Which, that's pretty new. I've heard about that before, but haven't had a chance to, like, look into anything on it. Now, the other ones, the video game ones that I saw one that was like a Smash TV. You remember Smash TV for the NES?
No, I don't. I remember the name, but I don't remember the game.
Okay, it's like a top-down combat game. But this one, that Smash TV is more like board intensive battle sort of thing. This seemed a lot less. It seemed a little bit more like horror themed. It was Tower 57. It's sort of like it's top down. You're battling it out. You fight monsters. You fight giant monsters sometimes. You gather loot and treasure from the area to use against it. I think you go through more than one level of the tower. But, you know, that looked interesting because, I mean, I do like games like that. I don't get to play a lot of them. And then there was 3 side-scrollers that I thought were interesting. One was the new expansion for Shovel Knight, because Shovel Knight's one of the big platformers, you know, that's been out in this last generation. And they have a new DLC with a different character, you know, that has different takes on abilities and stuff that's coming out soon. That was cool. And then there was Freedom Planet 2, the sequel to Freedom Planet 1, which I didn't really know about, which, when I was watching it, felt like a combination of Sonic the Hedgehog and I can't remember the other game they mentioned, but it was like another game that I've heard the franchise before. Because you're running around, high speeds, in boards which vaguely remind me a lot of times of Sonic, but then you have attack powers, so that sometimes you can shoot out things, or you have a melee weapon, things like that, and each character, you have a different number of characters with different abilities. That looked cool because I like games like that. You know, this, like, Sonic game, you know? I like this. I haven't had a classic Sonic game in a while, but I would love to play, you know, Sonic 1 or Sonic 3 or Sonic 2 again. You know, those are the kind of games that I really would enjoy. So that's why I was like, oh, that's really cool. And the other one I did want to mention was Attack on Kitten, which you're playing this, like, knight who has a number of cats which can transform into tools and weapons for them to fight fish.
Okay.
It seemed so silly, but it seemed to work good. Like if you needed a sword attack, your one cat would turn into a sword that you could use to fight, or one would turn into a bow, or like it was like a pair of cats which turn into these boots that allow you to have a run special ability.
Don't step inside your cats. That's not polite.
They transform into boots. They're boots cats. But no, those are the 5 games that I saw that I really pointed out to myself and said, these are interesting. I didn't get to try any of them because I'm not good at waiting in lines for that stuff. Of course, they had some VR stuff, which I'm never getting.
I'm excited about VR.
VR is cool, but I'm not getting it anytime soon. So that's my that's why my attitude's what it is. It's, you know, it is going to be years before I can actually play any if I'm not like doing it at one of these events. So I'm just not enthusiastic because of that.
Got you.
Yeah. So, I can get rid of that because I don't need that anymore.
Yukon Salon.
Yeah. Oops. But yeah, so yep, video games were cool there. A lot of board games, like groups like the people that do Cards Against Humanity, those that do Super Fight, they were all there. They had their places. So, I mean, there was quite a board game selection there, is the thing I have to say about it. So, there was so much stuff to check out. And it was really cool to just take walks around the show floor and try to, like, see things. So, it was fun. But now let's move on to some of our other topics and sort of try to finish out the day. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to push off my other topics. And if we talk about them or not next week, it's going to depend on the news for next week. We might sort of just move it down the line, so to say, and it might help us on weeks that there's a lot less news, you know?
Right.
So I think what we'll talk about is PAX Unplugged, and then I'll talk a little bit about my trip overall, rather than just what I saw, and then that'll be our stories from the table, just share what I kind of saw. I'll probably leave out all the details no one cares about, like where I went to eat and things. I'll talk about who I met. That's going to be a good one. The interesting folks, both in tabletop and YouTube, that I met. And then I do have a Sage and Game advice sort of question that I think we can ask, and we can see if we can get it in time. If not, we'll push it to next week. Just because Joe here has to leave a little early, and I respect that because, you know, it's a busy day.
Yeah, well, birthdays for my family all happen at the same time of year. So mine was just this past Thursday. My father just turned 80 on Monday, and then the previous Saturday, my mom turned 57. So it's like we're gonna just get together and do a big birthday kind of celebration all at once.
Sounds fun. So let's talk about PAX Unplugged, which was announced actually Friday of PAX South. That's the thing about it. It's the Friday I was there. I heard about this on Twitter. It's going to be in Philadelphia, which we're Northeastern boys. We're right up this alley. We're close to here. We can drive to here or take a train. We know where all the trains are.
Yeah, it's at the PA Convention Center, so we can take the train right to Market Street and be only a couple blocks away.
So we're going to probably, at least I will be there. Hopefully Joe will be there. We're going to have a presence at PAX Unplugged. We can already announce it now. So this is going to be the November 17th of the 19th, and this is focusing only on tabletop. All tabletop. Now, I'm going to guess that there might be some kind of video game-based presence, but it's not going to be the same way it is in normal PAX.
It's not going to be a focus.
It's not going to be a focus. Similar that there's a huge tabletop selection at normal PAXs, but it's not the focus. You know, indie video games are really more the focus at a PAX. This one's more focus, I think. And we're probably going to have, you know, different things other than that. They're already booking rooms and exhibitors, which I'm not going to worry about booking a room because guess what? I can take the train. Or, if it ends up being cheaper, carpool with a bunch of people in and just find parking. That might be cheaper too. If we leave early enough in the day and just plan to get breakfast somewhere down there, you know,
yeah,
then we miss the traffic too.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 thing because it depends on how many people we get, but then you have traffic and parking. Yep. So especially parking in Center City around the convention center is not cheap and not easy to find.
No. Yeah, no, parking around in San Antonio was pretty expensive in a lot of places. Some people I met there that had brought their car, that they had to drive in from their hotel every day. They had like an open lot, parking lot, which was like, I think they said like $10 a day. And one of the parking buildings was like 3 times that. So they went for the open air parking lot, which is a little more like, well, I'm just parked in the middle of an area, so car's not necessarily the most protected.
Yeah, but normally at conventions, places like that, they still have people who are maintaining the lot.
Well, downtown San Antonio wasn't bad at all when you actually got into the downtown area or around the Riverwalk and the convention center.
But Philly's a whole other story in general.
Center City is not bad. But
not bad, but not great either.
It doesn't take a lot of steps to move out of Center City into the bad parts of town, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think the convention center's near the historic districts anyway, which is the best part of town. Well, next to Temple's area, in that sort of center of the city. Temple's also a bastion of clean and a pile of, well...
Yeah, you walk a couple blocks away from Temple, you're not in very nice neighborhoods.
Oh, no. Not at all. Not at all. Having experienced it, no.
Just like in Vegas, you don't leave the strip.
Yeah. So that's just going to be the entire thing with that, what we're thinking. So, yes, PAX Unplugged. This seems like a great idea. It seems like it's another expansion of all the different types of PAX they can do. And it does seem to have a very good focus because they have this huge tabletop tabletop presence, but it's never focused down so much. And now that they're focusing on it, yeah, I think I can get aboard this. And again, since it's so close to me, hey, I'm up for it.
I definitely want to go. I just have to see how finances are at that time, but I don't think it'll be a big problem. And if I have any say, I guarantee more video this time and better quality.
theoretically, I should be able to, if I would go to this and make videos, I should be able to transfer them directly from my phone to a computer and keep them in MP4 format. And
right, but well, hopefully we won't have to use your phone. We have other devices that we can use that are going to be better quality. Like, I know I have a very new off-the-market phone that has amazing camera quality.
Yeah, like my... maybe we'll have something different for recording setup once we get to that time period.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, but I guarantee we're going to have it's going to be a little bit better, more polished job this time.
Well, it's like...
We worked out some of the bugs.
We might have to do the double recording device, is the only thing. Because, like, my camera that I use to shoot my videos is great for camera work. It does great videos. But it's terrible sound quality. Really bad sound quality. So if we might have to combine something with, like, what I do with my normal recordings now. Sound and video are recorded separately and then synced together.
Right.
A little mystery behind my recordings, you know, a little peel back behind it, that I record my sound and video separately. And then just sync them together. And delete the sound that was linked to the video originally.
Gotcha.
Makes it sound nice in the end. Alright. So yes, PAX Unplugged. We will talk more about that as it's getting closer.
And more information comes out about it.
Yeah, since it has just been announced. And it is November, so it is a good number of months away. Most of a year. It is only February now. So February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 10 months away? 10 months away.
Yeah.
A little less than 10 months. Like 9.5. That's quite a distance away. Alright, why don't I move into the stories from the table to talk about my time at PAX South. So, if you haven't seen the vlog, I would recommend checking it out. Again, it's not the best quality. I think Joe did an excellent job with it, with what I provided. I don't know if my second video will be much better quality, just because I haven't been able to work on it, trying to catch up on my normal schedule. Hopefully...
It may be because you know some more of the editing tricks.
Yeah.
I just learned it on the fly that weekend.
Yes. And again, because when I transferred videos to him through texting, because that's the only way I could do it easily, because I didn't have a laptop, I had a phone, and emailing through the phone wouldn't take these large-sized videos, because apparently it's unlike with a normal browser, which would allow me to gosh darn do this.
Yeah.
It changed it to like some kind of weird file.
Which I had to convert, and then the frame rates were lower than what the editor would take, so I had to convert and figure out how to up the frame rates to actually be able to edit them.
Yeah, lots of problems. That's the way of saying it. Lots of problems. So, we'll hope that's going to be taken care of. All right, but really what I wanted to talk about was... So, I got my plane ride successfully to San Antonio. I got to check out the routes a little bit, find out where the convention center was. I just spent my first day pretty much sleeping and resting up because I did get an hour of sleep before I left. Let's talk all about Friday. Now, Friday, I met probably two people that I call important. One, I met randomly early in the morning, Mathis Games. I do not know what his Twitter handle would be, but he runs a YouTube channel. I do watch some of his content. I like that he started a D&D game, which I do watch, Lost Initiative, which I think my Twitch here hosts occasionally. It's one of the ones I have set up to host, Lost Initiative. So if you stop by on a Wednesday or a Thursday and I'm not live streaming, it oftentimes is going to have one of their two sessions. One's D&D, one's Star Wars. But I met him. I actually talked to his GMs and his pals with him and one of his editors for some certain videos. So he's like, "Oh, you're the guy they're always talking to."
Cool.
Yeah, so that was neat. I probably would have wanted to talk tabletop more with him because I know he likes a lot of that stuff, but he was busy and it was random chance anyway. The other person is I met someone that might be promoting the channel, which is cool. That I hung out with a bunch, and he's the one I did random encounter with his other friend. Some people from Oklahoma, very nice. Usually from closer to where we live in the country. So So I did have an enjoyable Saturday. I met these people. I got to check out a lot of those things. I don't think I participated in any major board games other than playing some random encounter that day. Saturday, I got up normal time. I met with of course, I did associate with the two people I met before. We ended up going to dinner at the end of the day. They invited me out to a place. It was really nice. Decent Mexican, decent price. I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I remember the sort of area it was in, so I could probably point it out with the map. It was across from that chain where they're, like, insulting to you.
Oh, I've heard of it. I don't remember the name of it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, the place that they're not, like, they're purposely kind of rude or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was across the river from them, and that was down at the Riverwalk. We were like at street level above the Riverwalk, so there was an area nearby you could walk down to the river too. It's also kind of cold at night because it's nowhere near as cold as it's around here, but it was still chilly at night.
Brisk
is a way to say it. So that day I got to play Lords of Waterdeep with some people. I think that's the day I got to play Forbidden Island with some people. That sort of I randomly ran into in the tabletop rental section because they had an entire area where you could borrow out tabletop games as long as you gave them like an ID.
Oh, that's cool.
And they had a huge selection, a huge library to choose from. And once you got them, you could play, and then, and they also had stuff if you were looking for a group of people to play with. You had like signs and little like cones which would mark, we're looking for people, and attract them over. Like, that's how I joined the Lords of Waterdeep people. The Forbidden Island people were just sort of random that they were playing the game next to me, and I was giving them hints about the rules because they'd never played. And they're like, "Do you want to play with us?" And I'm like, "Sure." I had warned them I hadn't played in a while, but I remembered a bunch of the rules. It's sort of like, I remember a bunch of these rules, but I have not played in, like, a while.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That is to note that I did have an interesting conversation with some folks at lunch. I forgot about those people. They were talking about there were people there for the tabletop games, too. They were nice. But I also met Girl Gamer Gab, who's another YouTuber who does Let's Plays again. I like because she does some classic games that I enjoy. She did the Parasite Eve series, which is a series I love as video games, as role-playing games. So I really enjoyed her playing of that. And she was there in America with her husband. The two of them are Dutch that live in Japan. So it's kind of an interesting sort of that they're living there. Apparently she does want to move to America, but they did like this car tour from California to Texas and then drove back.
That's cool.
Yeah. And they were really nice. And I talked to the two of them for about a half an hour. I talked more to her husband because he's the one I got to talk about board games with more. And he's into Magic. He just started Magic. He got to tell me, like, board games in Japan aren't as big as you'd think. They're not very big at all. They don't know a lot of board games. And finding a decent store that's going to sell them, hard. Amazon's normally your best bet. And apparently, like a town over or something, is this place that you can buy Magic cards that are in English, because I guess that's a little better than Japanese ones for him, because I guess it's a language he learned earlier on than Japanese. But that's where all the foreigners go to get their Magic cards. There's like apparently like 20 people that you're usually going to see there getting Magic cards. Which I found funny. It's like the same 20 guys that, is like in the area that like play Magic that live in Japan. It's the foreigners. But no, there was interesting discussions, and I got to talk a little bit about YouTube and stuff and Twitch here. And, it's discussions like that with people that have more experience than me, which is very fun. And I like it a lot, and I, got to learn a bit, and it was nice to, meet the folks. I also met a couple other larger YouTubers, MySkirm, Bob, and Lord Minion 777 Wade. I met both of them briefly. I did get a picture with each of them because that was just, some kind of evidence that, because I didn't have a chance to talk with each of them really a lot. One of them was watching the Overwatch finals, and I just sort of ran into him because I was sitting at a table near there, not really paying too much attention to them. Yeah, because they had some kind of big Overwatch tournament finals there. That was an actual tournament sponsored by the company, Blizzard sponsored. And then I met a few other Pearsons. It was Bread Hero Dan, and Gar Blue Moon. And the two of them I talked about for 20 minutes about YouTube and Twitch. Which that was a very good conversation with the two of them. Because Dan himself has only more recently gotten a lot of growth. So he was talking about, you go through the chug along, and then eventually you hit a stride and you get a lot more growth. And he was also talking about various live streamings and putting the VODs up and things like that. Other interesting news, I met a fan of the channel.
Oh, cool.
That was really cool. So one of you folks out there that watch these videos said hi to me. Hi, I did not ask your name.
Bad.
I'm bad with names. But on Twitter, he did point out on Twitter that was him. When I said something, when I tweeted something about that, it's like, that was me. And it's like, okay. So I know who he is on Twitter, at least. But it was really nice to meet someone that likes some of my work. He enjoys my Magic History videos. So thank you for the support on that. If you end up watching this one. And thank you for anybody that supports me. I think we're close to 150 subscribers now. We're probably going to hit it soon. I'm going to see if maybe we can hit 200 by the end of February.
That'd be nice.
Oh, yeah. Rocking it out. Anyway, but let's move on, though. Let's just finish up. So Sunday was pretty uneventful overall. I tried out the other board games that I tried, the other indie ones. That was the day I met with Dan and Gar. That was the day that I ran into them. Because they were in the main lobby area of PAX, and I just sort of was passing through there at the point in time, and I was like, oh, huh. I recognize these people from vaguely seeing them at some place before. Just not really, like, hugely recognize. So it was good. So I like that, and I did get, as I said, I think I mentioned earlier, I got a great conversation with the creator of Random Encounter, one of them. So it definitely was a good time, and building some connections with folks that, if I can get things done, I have at least something built up. So I was very happy about that. Now, let's move on to Gaming Sage Advice, because I do want to quickly point this in now that I've just gone over a little bit about PAX South, my trip. If anybody ever has any questions, you can always throw them to me on Twitter or something, or on the VOD of this video on my channel, about my trip or anything. I would gladly answer those. But the Gaming Sage Advice question I had is, when you're moving into more of a public area, how would you go about introducing yourself to people? This could apply for something like a convention like PAX, or even a new, like a game store. If you wanted to, like, just introduce yourself to people there, how would we go about doing that? Now, granted, I know we're going to be very different here, because you're much more of a social beast than I, in a way.
In a way, but at the same time, when it comes to meeting new people, I'm a little awkward at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally the type of person, if a random conversation kind of somehow starts, I can get into it and I'm fine. But that initial starting, I am a little on the shy side of being able to just walk up to someone and say, hey, nice to meet you, out of the blue.
Yes. No, I'm very terrible at that side of things. Just sort of being like, hello, nice to meet you. I think
once you get me started to talk, I don't shut up.
Well, it's like, I just said something about the Magic tournaments that were there, and someone nearby commented on me. And that's how I met the one fellow that ended up being, he introduced me to his friend, that we talked a lot about stuff and hung out on some of Friday and Saturday. That's how I met him, is we were by the Magic tournament thing. That was a pretty good and interesting, way of breaking the ice, is, I just said something, he said something back, and we started a conversation. That, I think, is more on him on that end, because I really wasn't aiming for anything. I was just making a comment to the universe, at the time.
Right.
But, like, when you're directly introducing yourself, that can be difficult because you're not necessarily knowing that these are the people that would be interested in necessarily the same things as you. I usually think I look for people that are doing something that would be connective to what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
Also, try to be nice. Like, I probably could have maybe hung out with those people that did Forbidden Island more. You know, I could have, like, introduced myself more, you know, talked a little more, saw if they wanted to do something, you know, something like that. Because I had an in when I talked to them about the rules. I just happened to be nearby. But I knew the rules more than them and could help them out. You know, that was my icebreaker.
Right.
We had a bunch of random people when it came to Lords of Waterdeep, so that was a little harder. Because that's more like, oh, we're just getting together to play a board game at an event, more things, you know. It's like, you know, playing Magic against someone at a Magic tournament. You're not necessarily going to be bonding with them. You're just playing a game.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially with that, that's more because you're really focusing on the competition part of it, not, hey, I want to meet people. It's, hey, I want to kick your butt.
And that was the same thing with Lords of Waterdeep. It was the competition aspect of it that we were focusing on at the time. So, yeah. I think there were very few conversations at PAX I started. Because, again, I'm very bad at starting that in public often. Because I'm nervous about it. You know, that's one of my own little anxieties. That's like, you know, when I can start the conversation and we can actually get it going, I'm good with it. But getting that first step is difficult for me.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the reasons, like, when I met Mathis on Friday, we didn't have a conversation. Because he was the first person that, like, was, I guess, best to say it, a YouTube mentor for me. It's a lot of these people that do really much better on YouTube and who kind of moved into it that, yes, I don't do the same things as a bunch of them, but they inspired me, you know,
right.
to begin my journey, that we're here now talking about it. This is, you know, this is part of my journey that I was inspired to do.
Yeah, you're going to what, year 2 now?
Working on the second year. I think by the time we hit PAX Unplugged, I'll hit my second anniversary.
Woohoo!
I'm aiming for at least 500 by then. I'd like 1,000 by the end of the year. Don't know if I'll get that for subscribers, but we'll find out. The goals we have. We get a lot of subscribers during the week. As long as I keep up with the materials, you know, and keep up with the social media, which I gotta catch up on some of that, which I don't know if I'll be doing this today or later on today or something, just because of trying to get the videos caught up too for the rest of the day before we would possibly roleplay or board games or whatever.
Right.
You know,
if we get people.
We'll have to see. There's a couple of people that might be free, so we'll discuss that in our own time.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But it's the sheer fact that, you know, the first one I met, you know, I was nervous. I really was, because it's like, what do I say to this guy? What can I say to strike up a conversation? By the time I got to, like, Gab on Saturday, she's still, like, a far bigger YouTuber than me, you know? She's, like, hundreds of times bigger than me. I was able to strike up a really great conversation with both her and her husband. Very nicely. And it felt natural. And I think from there, by then I had sort of gotten used to what I talk about. The thing is, I didn't treat myself as a fan, even though I am in a way a fan. You know, that's the thing. I can't deny I'm a little bit of a fan. I treated myself as someone else that's on the YouTube, and it's on Twitch. That's another person that's doing the same job. You know?
Right.
Maybe I'm much smaller. Maybe I'm not, like, big earner or something. You know, maybe I'm not anything like that. But it's the fact that I conducted myself like them that I think was proper in this case.
You conducted yourself as a professional.
Yes. And I think that's something that was good for me to learn a little bit more about doing. You know, I hadn't had experience with others from my same field. Regardless, we had, like, they said, we said, John? Am I remembering his name? Because I'm bad with names.
I'm bad with names too.
Oh my god. It's because it's been weeks, and I'm forgetting because it's been weeks.
I think you're right, though.
I can find out in a second. Oh yeah, I'll find out in a second. Yep, John. Hey, I remembered it correctly. Yeah, when we had John on. He's a fellow YouTuber, but he's around my size, you know? He's a small YouTuber like me. So, yeah, of course we're able to communicate a lot better. A lot easier, you know? I'm not talking up to someone that's had, you know... Granted, he might have had some experiences which are good to learn from. I'm not saying that at all, you know? But when you're talking to someone that has, like, 50,000 subscribers or more...
It's more intimidating.
Because they've had an entirely different experience and entirely different growth. So yeah, I think talking to my YouTube peers was difficult, and that was the hardest challenge I faced there. You know, chatting with a fan, that was pretty easy because he approached me anyway. You know, it's like when someone approaches you, that's a lot easier.
Right.
But that's one of those things. Is either you make yourself a target to be approached if you're at a place to meet people, or you just figure out where the common ground is and approach on that. So that's my best advice for that, and that'll get you maybe some new friends, maybe into a gaming group, even if you're just going to be like gaming group pals, or might get you just a fun game if there's something going on at a place. You know, even if you don't have any kind of long-term friendship with these people, might be nice to do. All right, so we'll call it for today. I'm going to move my 3 topics, Syntheside, Fragged Empire, and the talking about anime cards and card games. I'm going to move them next week. If I cancel any of them, sorry. You know, bother me in the comments of this VOD or on Twitter that you really want me to talk about one of these topics. I'll see what next week's news topics are to see what we're going to really be talking about. So, I guess that's going to be it for this week. My next live stream is theoretically tomorrow. I'll continue some more Civilization 6, since apparently that's been very popular-er? Popular-er? I don't know.
More popular.
People loved it last night, that's for sure. Much more than my normal kind of crowd. They stayed around for me flailing about trying to live. and getting, like, 4th place. But anyway, I guess that's it for this week. VOD will be up probably Monday, Tuesday, around that area. I should be caught up on my normal schedule. Theoretically today, I'll have out Besom, AD&D, and Shadowrun. If one of them doesn't come out, then I'll just catch up tomorrow with 3 videos. So it's either going to be 3 videos today or tomorrow, depending on what I can do. I might get I might have something I need to do before role-playing tonight, and that might kill my time for doing other stuff. That's the only thing. I don't know yet. But I think that's it for the schedule for it. Videos will be back to normal schedule then. PAX video should be up in the next couple of days. I will make sure to have it up before Tuesday. That is my promise. I should be caught up on schedule. I should be able to do it by then. Should be able to have everything together. Tuesday, latest. And the VODs for the past Civilizations live streams will be up soon. I'll sort of just throw them in between everything when that's natural. As I said, this one should be Monday or Tuesday. So I guess that's it for this week.
Have a good week, and see you next weekend.
And until the next time, I bid you farewell.